What really captures me, Brian, is, and I've kind of coined the phrase, and I've said this for years, that there are those politicians who govern with the idea of political survivorship. And this has really been the topic here. So the Democrats, how I look at it on the national stage, are the party of obstruction, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I say that because
because it's true.
well, not only true, Steve. I mean, but the point of the matter is, it sends a clear message. So the president's agendas and the president's plans and policies get kind of circumvented a little bit by this idea of governing for political survivorship to cater to some of this extreme leftist thinking. And you can't even say progressive, because there's nothing progressive about it.
No.
It is leftist bizarre thinking. And this is the problem, Brian. I look at these politicians like the Jeff Andrews, who are just there to survive and are not taking a position that is really best for the district that he is supposed to represent.
No, I tend to agree, and this is why, this is a predominantly Republican district, and just because you say one thing here in South Jersey and do another down in D.C., I'm sorry, that's very disingenuous. Or having a position on your website and then removing that position when people pay attention to it and there's a conflict on that particular issue. These are things when it comes to representation. Obviously, we're 6 months into this new Congress, and it doesn't even appear that there's an interest in continuing some of the stuff that former Congressman Frank Lobiando did, as well as going after the issues that matter the most. I mean, the fact that people in Washington, and it's not just the elected officials, it's the bureaucracy that supports them, the swamp, that is completely dependent on survival because they can't, quote unquote, do anything else, and that's why President Trump is such a threat. And obviously the issue of term limits always comes up, whether or not to institute a piece of legislation or if elections themselves are term limits. On top of the fact that, look, if that was a point of discussion, you can't just include the elected officials. It's got to be the bureaucracy as well, because when you get so entrenched in something, you get complacent. And all too often, we've seen here in the district, there are towns that are completely one-party controlled. It doesn't matter which side it is, but when they get complete control and complete complacency, they start fighting with one another. And then that creates a whole nother can of worms on both sides of the aisle. So again, I look at serving as getting in, doing something that is going to help the district, because I believe that my background in defense and aerospace in the last 10 years is directly applicable and can help. There are instances so many times where people, they want to get in, they want to do this for the rest of their lives. While that's very altruistic to want to serve for a very long time, things change, technology changes. There's a lot of things that change over the course of time, and making sure that you're up to date on particular issues that matter most to your constituents, and not being someone think about Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. They came into Congress with absolutely no net worth, and yet here they are 40 years later, millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
It's utterly ridiculous, and that's just something that obviously ticks off a lot of voters, whether it's local, state, or national.
How much does it tick them off? They keep getting reelected.
Well, listen, they like to sit at that trough, right? I mean, they're feeding at the trough, and that's the thing, at the taxpayers' expense, and those who put them there to do a job.